for sound.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Next Run Gaming. This is Pete the Headbanger with Rick Fiera, Connor, 3D Dan, and our special guest this week, Ivan, and his 9-flyer list. This week we're going to be talking about tournaments, various lists we're seeing, some changes in the meta, and most importantly, how to beat 9 flyers. I have yet to figure this out myself. But thank you everybody for coming. Let's start with Ivan, and why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
My name's Ivan. I'm originally from Los Angeles, California. I'm currently serving in the United States Army, stationed out of Aberdeen Proving Grounds, Maryland. Kind of got into Warhammer starting in like the 8th grade, very long time ago, and pretty much just been playing ever since, on and off. Played some War Machine and Hordes, and then got back in the end of 7th edition, and now into 8th.
Nice, man. Could you tell us a little bit about playing 40K tournaments in 8th edition?
Yeah, so I actually hit it pretty hard and heavy at the start of 8th edition. Thought it was one of the best editions yet for competitive play. Smoothed out a lot of things. And then right when I got to Maryland, pretty much all the tournaments in this area I hit up. So.
Is anybody hearing reverb right now?
Yeah, a little bit.
I just want to say, as an intern, I'm Dan.
Thanks, Dan.
I mean, you're not Dan. I'm. So.
Hey guys, I want to reset because that reverb we're getting, if that's okay.
Cool. Sure.
And before that happens, I'm just gonna track it down. Sorry, any viewers, you're gonna see the intro again in about 2 minutes.
So I can say I'm Dan again. All right.
Yeah, and I'll run a little. I'll do introductions a little bit slower this time. I'm sorry.
It's all good.
Okay, who is not hearing reverb? I am hearing reverb.
I am not.
I was hearing it when Ivan. I'm not hearing it.
Ivan, can you key up?
Stutter stuff, so I'm gonna
What's
leave.
that?
I'm just trying to track down that reverb. I'm not hearing it right now.
Yeah, I'm not hearing it either.
Okay. Then I'm just gonna reset us. Streams back up in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Things shall get loud now. Such sweet cacophony. They beg for sound.
Okay, everybody, welcome to Next Run Gaming and the First Rung, our weekly show about 40K, tournament play, and other little things you could do with toy soldiers. This week, as always, I am Pete the Headbanger. I have with me Rick Fiera.
Greetings.
Connor.
Hello.
And 3D Dan, who is visiting us from the brinks of hell.
I'm Dan. Yeah.
Everybody forgive Dan. He's got a little bit of the touch and nurgle this week, but he is soldiering through like a good guardsman. But with us this week, we have a special guest. We have Ivan and his 9-flyer list of doom.
What's going on?
This week, we're going to be talking about Ivan's list. We're going to be talking about competitive 40K. We're going to be talking about changes in the meta as always, and just going around seeing what's changed in our list. I actually just changed mine. I'd love to talk about it. So, let's start off talking to Ivan. Ivan, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
My name is Ivan. I'm originally from Los Angeles, California. I currently serve in the United States Army, stationed out of Maryland. I just got into 8th edition when it first got started, so it's pretty awesome. It's probably the best edition yet.
Nice. And if you were just with us a minute ago, we reset the stream. So if you've heard that twice, that's why we're having a reverb issue. It's just, in case people
Deja vu.
here at NextRungGaming, things like audio quality matter occasionally.
Exactly. So we're here to serve you guys.
It's all for you.
Yeah, so Ivan, I'll ask you just kind of double the question down. So, what's your tournament experience been like in 8th edition? Like, have you been jumping around factions? Have you always been going pretty hard at the tournament scene since the edition started?
Yeah, so Craft World was pretty much my first. Well, actually, I shouldn't say that. Inari was my first, starting in 8th edition. Just because I came out of Inari out of 7th edition, so you probably know how broken that was. But yeah, I just came into 8th, going straight from into Eldar. And yeah, pretty much hitting that ever since. Been on and off with some random stuff, but Craft World and Inari were my main since 8th edition started.
Nice.
How long have you actually loved cancer? Is it
Loved what?
thing?
Did you say cancer?
Yes.
Pretty much the entire time, I guess.
I think what Dan's asking is, how long have you been a terrible, terrible person?
Oh man, since I was born.
Back in 1965. But so one of the reasons that we wanted to bring you on the show was, well, I know you. You're like a pretty solid tournament organizer up in Maryland. Been to a couple of tournaments up there that you put on, and that one of your local stores put on. And we were both just at a tournament last weekend called the War in the Berg, put on by your hobby place. So you took home second. Why don't you tell the folks a little bit about your list, sort of why you're running it in the configuration that you are, and then if you could run us through your 5 games this past weekend.
So my list is 9 flyers, as is by the title. It's and then a Supreme Command detachment. So it's got 2 Air Wing detachments of Elitok, with all 3 types of flyers, 3 of each. And then you got a Supreme Command detachment of 2 Sweeping Autarchs, a Farseer on a bike, and a Warlock on a bike in a Supreme. Also Elitok. So I actually started playing this list since.
If you can tell the folks what those flyers are, just in case people aren't familiar.
Oh yeah, so it's 3 Hemlocks, 3 Crimson Hunters, and 3 Crimson Hunter Exarchs.
Cool.
Armed with star cannons.
And just quickly, if you could quickly go over what those do, because Elder Flyers are weird.
Yeah, of course. So the Crimson Hunters, they're like the anti-tank, so they have 2 Strength 8 -4 D6 damage guns, and they also have 2 shots at Strength 8 -3 damage 3 guns. So, and then the Crimson Hunter Exarchs have the same pulse lasers, which are Strength 8 -3 damage 3, and 4 shots at Strength 6 -3 damage D3. The cool thing about the Crimsons both, they reroll wounds against flying models, which is a huge thing. And then you got the Hemlocks, which are Psyker planes that could smite and cast like any negative buffs. And they have awesome anti-tank guns as well, which are Strength 12 -4 D2 or damage 2. Mm-hmm. But they got to be kind of up close and personal for those ones at 16 inches.
They're auto hit, right?
Flamers, right?
They're auto hit. I'm sorry, yeah, they're flamers. So
crazy.
Anti-tank flamers.
Cool.
You know,
2d3 shots for those too.
Mm-hmm.
The Hemlocks being psychic and being flyers gives me hope that I'll have psychic.
Yeah.
I can dream.
You can dream.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so why don't you take us through why you run the list, why you do?
So I'm a huge fan of flyers to begin with. I thought when they came out, that was pretty awesome. And the fact that Eldar, one of their biggest rules is you could pivot twice, basically moving laterally, which is really hard to box out. So also I noticed in 8th edition and pretty much all in 40K, because it is a dice game and it's still luck based, if I could reduce the chances that my opponent is lucky by having the I guess incapability of interacting with me, that's what I wanted to go for. And with flyers in general, you can't really interact with them without the fly keyword. And with the -2 to hit them from shooting, it really gives the chances of success very minimizes it. So I figured why not try and spam that as much as possible across with a 3 data sheet limiter. and I came up with 9 flyers that fit perfectly.
And a really popular. If you think about like Alex Harrison's a really good 40K player who did well at a tournament last year. He took Dark Eldar flyers. Can you talk about why you didn't take any of the Dark Eldar flyers for that sweet Vect stratagem? Vect being you can cancel another player's strat with one of your own, which is incredibly powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually started running this list back in November of last year. And I can't say even it was an original list because I actually saw this. I think this pretty much an identical list on one of the Scottish ETC players, and that's who I really got the inspiration from. And he kind of talked about it in one of his forums. So I kind of neck decked it, and it was awesome just the way he was talking about the list. And he didn't even mention Dark Eldar flyers. And one of the things I did agree with him is if you went against other flyers, Razor Wings don't do necessarily as great. And I kind of followed the same suit. I like the Vex stratagem, but at 4 CP, it really wasn't doing me much justice if I could just use it once, maybe twice.
Right.
And at that point, if I'm really counting on vecting one stratagem, then I mean, at that point, I'm probably pretty much lost with that list, anyways. So instead of going the more expensive CP route, I just went the route of having least amount of CP, but not having to use it as many times on things, not relying on stratagems as much.
So I think a lot of something I've heard some people in some chats I've been in when your list would come up, like talking about the tournament this past weekend, because a couple people mentioned like 9 flyers guy. How do you avoid getting losing to boots on the ground? Boots on the ground is if you have no models on the table that are not flyers. So if you have only planes left and you have no infantry characters or tanks or whatever on the ground, you automatically lose. So 1, have you ever been boots on the ground? And 2, why do you think that's not a problem for the list?
So yeah, that's definitely the first thing that come to most people's minds whenever they go against this list or even think about theorizing going against. I have never been boots on ground, and I have come close on 4 different occasions, which, forgive my language, made my butt pucker really badly, right? So the concept, and I got super lucky on all these matches that really happened to, and it was all because of snipers, vindicators, good charges from smash captains. I just got lucky and survived those. So never got bootsed, and that is definitely a viable strategy for it. But if you don't have snipers and if you don't have ways to really target characters or deep strike, it's kind of hard to get back to them, especially how mobile they are. And the fact that there's 4 of them, you're never going to hold a lot of objectives, but you could spread them out really quickly. So you could go 2 characters on one side and 2 characters on the other, and you got to split your forces at some point. But you could block the enemy by the flyers as much as you can. So
very cool. So does anybody have any Ivan get tournament?
I have a question.
I get after. Go ahead, bud.
I want to know, what do you think about the new airborne rules? How did that affect your list on the lightest big vac?
So it definitely hurt it in the sense that I can't move block like I used to. Obviously, trying to put them 1 inch away or a little more than 1 inch away, and not having the enemies move through it, that's pretty big. It didn't hurt it too much in the sense that you could still move block. You just gotta, put your flyers in a position where they can't move after their maximum amount of movement, specifically for like knights and faster models. And the fact that you still can't end within an inch of enemy units is pretty big. But overall, I mean, it didn't affect it too much to the point where I wouldn't stop or I would stop running the list. So I think it was needed. It made sense. Like,
the question I did have is, I know you guys were doing a Nova tournament or Nova format, which differs slightly. Do you think you'll be changing the list at all going into Nova, given that board control, actual control of objectives, is a bigger component compared to IT?
So yeah, I was talking to Connor about this, and I think this list definitely hurts in Nova format, mainly because it doesn't have a kill more capability, and it all relies on killing in secondary points. And that was a really big thing that in our game with Connor, it really showed because of the objective parts and end game and progressive, and that was pretty big. So when I describe the list to everyone, it has a lot of DPR, right? So it has a lot of damage per round. But what it doesn't have is it doesn't have bodies per round. It doesn't have BPR. So it can't kill a lot of hordes units, and Connor's list had a lot of bodies. So I could focus on one unit at a time, but at the end of 6 rounds, like in Nova format, I'd be losing on primaries. So most opponents would get at least 16 to 18, and it would show in that GT, most people got 20 something points off me, and the only way I got over the 30 mark was because I had to table them. So yeah, I mean, I don't think I'm going to tweak it at this point just because of practicality's sake. Like I already had 9 flyers, and I'm like, all right, I might as well just go with it. And I'm kind of stubborn, so probably makes me an idiot, but whatever.
Okay, cool. I just didn't know if that was something that you'd run through. And if...
I'm curious if you've come up against sort of heavy mortal wound spam where there were a lot of psychers and a lot of bodies, and how that sort of interacted with you. I'm also curious, just as a personal thing, because I keep forcing myself as a Chaos player to bring a Herald of Slanesh specifically so that whenever I see a character flyer, I can use the Forbidden Gem. Has anyone ever used the Forbidden Gem on you?
So the flyers actually aren't characters.
They're not.
They don't have the. Yeah, okay, they don't have the character keyword.
Anyway.
Right. So it's a Psyker. The Crimson Exarch isn't a character either, so it kind of helps in that way. I have not run into, like Jim Vessel, TJ Lanigan's type of list where it's tons of Plague Bearers and Psyker spam. I haven't run into that. I've been very fortunate, I guess, with my pairings.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it would probably go really badly depending on how it goes. It would really depend on if I could go through that many bodies, which I don't think I can.
It's actually the new Slanesh, Torted Epitome. That's the one that has the fall back roll under your lead. How are you gonna? I know that Austin Winfield and a few other players are talking about hyping that up. How do you see yourself dealing?
I'm sorry, you're cutting out on the last part. Well,
I think Dan's asking particularly. So there's a contorted epitome. It's a character, I believe, and it has a function that says you can't fall back if you're within 6 inches of it. So it sounds like you could like a thing that like a tactic that you could use as a Chaos player is if you charge a bunch of the flyers with your Demon Princes, or you attack a couple with Mortarion, but you don't necessarily kill all of them. If you have this contorted epitome thing in the midst of all that, it would prevent your flyers from actually being able to fall back from all these units that charge you with fly. And so I apologize, Dan, if I'm not getting your question right. But
that was exactly right.
Yeah, how would you deal with that if you had some sort of like weird, janky chaos thing coming at you? Like,
the trait is that a Warlord trait? I'm assuming.
No, that's
just an ability that
function of the unit.
Oh, okay. So basically, those guys would just crash and burn, right? Because they can't minute.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I'll just cry. Right? Like, I mean, yeah, this is as skew list as possible, and if I came across that, that's like the answer to the skew. So I'd probably just cry, and I'd call you guys for tears.
Yeah, these are oddly specific questions. It's just, have you thought about it? And you have, and it's too bad.
yeah, I would call you for consolation. Yeah.
I think we're trying.
You'd have me back on the show. Yeah. To see how I lost so bad.
All right. Well, let's move on.
Yeah. So I think that that's gonna answer the head trip we're all taking, which is what really threatens your list? What does really scare you? What do you think that would be a good counter to what you're running?
So I think Connor's list is very interesting because it does have a lot of strength 4, which is wounds on 5s, so that's pretty big for anything that has a mass amount of strength 4, and particularly because shurikens, if you wound on 6s with Doom, it's a lot of 6s coming in that's -3, so definitely hurts the flyers. Mass amount of bodies, because I can't go through the bodies per round, I can't do that. So Plague Bearers, with the disgusting resilient really hurts. Yeah, horde units. So the one thing I did notice though, if it's a lot of bodies of like guardsmen or cultists, it's okay because the hemlocks kind of mitigate that with the -2 leadership. So you'll end up picking up a lot more. But it's really the ones that stick around, which is plague bearers, because they could regenerate and they could come back if they lose that leadership. Yeah, it's really just the bodies and a lot of strength 4 shots.
So why don't you take us through your tournament, Ivan? I have the lists on my phone if you need help remembering what the other guys' list was.
All right,
But
let's see.
You went 4-1, and you got second place out of 32 people at this GT, which is pretty fucking sweet.
Yeah, so fortunately I was super lucky, right? A lot of, I guess a lot of the pairings. The first one I got super lucky. I got paired with this douchebag named Connor. So he's cool.
Yeah, man.
Oh man. So I had brought the 9 flyers, right? And then you could tell your list.
So my list is amazing. It's a beautiful list. So it's basically, I have a double battalion supreme command of mixed Eldar. So the first battalion is Ulthway Battalion. I have an Autarch Skyrunner who is some good anti-flyer tech. He's got a Banshee Mask, which ignores Overwatch, a Fusion Gun, which is basically a melt-the-gun, a Laser Lance, which is also kind of like a melt-the-gun, and it's also like a close combat weapon. And then he has a Shuriken Catapult on his bikes. Then I have Eldrad Ulfran and a Warlock Skyrunner. Then I have 3 units of 20 Guardians, which is 60 Guardian bodies on the board. A unit of 7 Wind Rider jet bikes, which a lot of people know them as like scatter bikes, but I just take them with a lot of DACA, which I find to be pretty useful this tournament. Then I had a unit of 3 Shadow Weavers, which is like an Elder basically. And then I had a battalion of Cursed Blade Witches with 2 Succubus with Shardnet and Impalers. One of them won me the game, actually. We'll talk about that. 2 units of 15 Witches with 3 Shardnets each. And then I had a Craftworld Supreme Command with the Avatar Arcane, Moggen Ra, and a Spiriteer. So that's my list.
So I run the roll off. I was able to start killing off some Guardians, took out an entire unit of Witches. The deployment was Dawn of War. And I think you deep struck 1 bike unit, 1 20-man Guardian unit, and 1 15-man Witch unit.
Yeah, I deployed up we were playing Nova style terrain, so there were 2 really big line of sight blockers, and there were 2 ruins and 2 hills in opposite corners of each other. And I deployed everything that I had in one corner, because I didn't want to have my stuff spread out and potentially get my characters sniped by Evan's plane. So I was like castled up in the corner, and I put a bunch of my heavy hitters in deep strike.
And then for secondaries, I think I chose and just I marked all his Witches and his bike just for easy kills and recon. And then I think I did old school as well.
Yeah, I did. I marked your planes. I did big game hunter. Picked. Can't remember my last one, but I think I got like 11 secondaries in that game, or something.
Yeah. So I went first. I ended up picking up one of his 15-man Witch units. Took down half of another Guardian unit, and then took some off another 20-man Guardian unit. But that was pretty much it as far as the kills went. And then it pretty much the entire game went, and you chose progressive, I chose endgame. And the whole game was just attrition based. He was able to, so shout out to Connor. He's the only opponent I've ever played who took me down to two planes left, I think.
Yeah.
Which was insane. It's unheard of. But yeah, he just attritioned me down. He was able to drop 20 Guardians. He was able to guide, doom everything, and really just whittle down each of the planes to where they were really either ineffective or dead. So, and he did mark and shoot the big game hunter or whatnot, and he was able to almost max his secondaries. And it really came down to 2 rolls. Super close game. It was whether I was able to advance and get onto an objective for my end game, and I didn't make it. And it was whether he was able to advance and get onto his objective on turn 6 or round 6, and he was able to make it. So
was able to one of the succubus was able to did a 4 on an advance roll to run onto an objective to deny Ivan that objective, and it got me like a 2-point win or something like that. And I just I just stuck a 6 first roll, so it was a crazy game, bro. Oh my god,
it was awesome.
It was.
Going on to game 2, it was into Josh Kinder. He had a Death Guard list with some demons. His was
I can.
His was like.
Let me write it down.
So I'll just talk about the main ones for his army. So his main one was Mortarion. He had 3 Plague Burst Crawlers, a 17-man Plague Marine unit, and 2 Nurglings, Nurgling squads, and then a couple Sorcerers and Blightlord unit, Blightlord Terminators. So that one, I was fortunate enough to go first. Ended up murking Mortarion first round. But he actually was able to take down like 3 planes, I believe, with his Plague Marines, because they have a cool stratagem with grenades, and he was just crushing grenades and just crushing planes. So he ended up to kill more and able to hold it on in game. It was super close though. He got a 25 loss, and that's the max you can get in Nova for a lot, even if you score more. So I was able to squeeze that one out, and that was really close. Came down to round 6 on whether I. Game 3, buddies.
I think we are roboting a little bit, guys. I apologize.
You guys hear me?
Oh, Discord is having a fit. One moment. Hopefully it'll clear up, everybody. I'm going to take this moment of technical problems to tell you about our Facebook. We have a Facebook. We have social media. We are on Discord. Come and visit us. We are up under NextRungGaming.
Absolutely.
And just waiting on Rick to pop back up, but we are in business. Sorry about that, everybody. Discord had a little bit of
Discord farted.
Yeah, a little bit of Discord fart. I am sure Rick will be back with us momentarily. And there he goes.
Is Ivan, are you still here?
Yeah.
Okay, Dan, you here?
I'm here.
Rick?
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Rick's here. Cool. All right. So sorry, Ivan. I think you were talking. The last thing I heard was you saying that you got blown up by a lot of grenades in Josh Kinder's game.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so he has a cool strat in Death Guard where he could throw a ton of grenades, and due to his Warlord having that ability to buff him up, and yeah, he just blew up I think 3 planes with just that type of strat.
Wow.
But I was able to kind of attrition him out, and it came down to round 6 where I was able to get onto an objective, and if I could hold it without my character dying, I was in a good spot. And the only unit he had left was Blightlord as well as his Sorcerer. And I was able to whittle them down to where they were pretty much ineffective, and my character on the objective was not the closest one, so they weren't able to hit him at all. So ended up winning that one 34-25. And he actually scored more than 25, but due to the Nova rules for losing, he got dropped down to 25.
Okay.
Yeah.
Uh,
Third game.
Go ahead. Sorry, JC.
Yeah, third game was playing my buddy JC Watts, who came down with us. He ran the Triple Crusader, Skatar Battalion, and then Acadian Battalion with 3 mortar squads. I actually got seized on, so I was about to be a super sad panda. But due to some fortunate rolling and his awful spikes at different times, he wasn't actually able to kill a plane on first turn.
Oh.
Despite having the Crast Relic, despite having all the reroll ones and stuff like that. Yeah, he wasn't able to do it. I think the lowest he brought down to Hemlock was 4 wounds, which obviously the Hemlocks don't matter because they just auto hit anyways. And then in retaliation, I was able to bring down his Warlord Crusader to half. and blow up another Crusader.
Oof.
And pretty much from there, the attrition went. I was able to kill a knight and a half a turn, and then just mop up everyone else.
Nice.
So that was day one. And then day two went into playing Charles Craig. He had a Mortarian.
Charlie.
Yeah, so you had Mortarian, 2 Discord Lords, 3 Demon Princes, 2 of them being in the Supreme Command of Thousand Suns with Ahriman, and the other one just being with the other battalion of cultists, as well as 2 bike units. I think one 9-man and one like 5-man. Once again, I was very fortunate to go first, despite having less drops, or more drops. And I was able to snipe Mortarian really well. And that damage on that first round was insane enough where I was not only able to kill Mortarian, I killed a Discord Lord and Ahriman because he was closer to one of my Crimson Exarchs.
Damn.
So just that precedence of that round 1 really just told the rest of it, and I was able to table him, I think, by turn 3 or 4.
Wow.
And then my round 5 was actually against Ryan Lavoie, who played Dark Eldar. It seems like it's a meta Dark Eldar list that's starting to pop up a lot of places, which revolves around Grotesques, Talos, Ravagers, and Razorwing fighters. His list was 3 Razorwings, 3 Ravagers in the Spearhead, 2 units of Grots, 1 6-man, 1 7-man, I believe, and 2 2-man units of Talos, which is, you just look at it, it's already a horrifying list. And I do shout out to Ryan because I was kind of a dick in the first round. I was having like some type of allergy attack, and I kind of took it out on him, so I feel kind of bad. But I also don't feel that bad because he's playing that list, so I was like, whatever, dude. I'm just kidding. Sorry, love you, Ryan. So I was able to go first again. My target priority was Ravagers because with the rerolls of 1s on both wounding and hitting, they were probably the most damaging with the disintegrators. So I took down 2 on the first turn and put some wounds on a Razorwing. He wasn't able to kill a plane on the first turn, but he was able to wound 1 pretty down low. And then the second turn, I was just able to mop up the rest of the Razorwings and Ravagers. Really, what that list came down to was the durability of the Grotesques and Talos, because I didn't focus on one until I didn't focus on one unit until later turns, and that I think ate at me. But I was able to come down, and the only unit he really had left was a 2-man Grot unit with his Urian Homunculus guy. And yeah, those are the 3 models left, but that cost me a perfect score, so it ended up being like 29 to 25, I think.
So your target priority went Ravagers first, and then it was the Razorwings, and then it was the Talos?
Yeah, because the Talos had the Haywire Blasters, and they could fly.
Right, so you were most scared of the Ravagers in that matchup, though, and you were just able to keep out of the range of the Talos on the charge just by playing smart and cagey.
Yeah, so he actually was able to charge with one of his Talos. I was able to kill 1 Talos, but the other one was able to charge and kill the Hemlock.
Okay.
But I was willing to make that trade of a Hemlock over, another Talos and whatnot. So
Right.
Yeah, so if you notice, all the games that were pretty close, all the losses were actually 25 points.
Right.
Because they could just score insane amount of secondaries and primaries with progressive.
Right.
And also with this list in Nova, you get strike rank and file for free, so you get 4 secondary points, no problem.
That was what I picked, my last one. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was your tournament run.
Yeah, that was it.
So so it's something that so it's kind of like the thing with our podcast is one of the goals of this kind of like our mission, I guess you could say, is like everybody here is trying to get to that like next level of tournament play, whatever that is.
Next
like,
rung.
What was that, Dan?
The next rung.
The next rung, right? So it's like winning a GT, going 4-1, going 3-2, whatever that may be, like having a winning record, right? So you've I remember first seeing your name on BCP before I actually met you, like having done, I think it was when you got 7th at the boys GT or something like that. So and you got a shout out on the new Frontline Gaming podcast. They're doing like a cool ESPN style podcast, and you got a shout out from the Peter the Falcon Calissima, who was like, Ivan Cho's really solid Eldar player. So, which is true, obviously. So, what's your mentality going into a tournament? Because I know that we've talked about the flyer list, and I asked you once, I was like, because you like are aware that the 9 flyers isn't like a GT winning list, right? It's like a
Right.
very like 4-1 list. So that being said, what are your goals going into a tournament, and what's your mentality going into a tournament?
So a lot of that I think depends on the list I'm bringing.
Sure.
If I'm going with a normal meta type of list or a national meta list, I think it really just comes down to whether I'm trying to go for the gold or not. And actually, I've never gone into a tournament thinking I'll go for the gold, just mainly because of the number of top contenders there are. It's really just game by game, and if it really depends on the pairing for round 1. So specifically for the 9 flyers, if I get a decent pairing, I know I could have a good chance of at least having a winning record for at least a 5-round tournament. And I think this actually goes into that dark horse, that dark art, right, of what they call what's it called, submarining?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that tactic or pairing tactic has been coming up a lot recently, mainly because of LVO as well as Nova. And specifically with 9 flyers, because it scores so low in general in champions and in Nova, that pairing system is really what comes down to, I think, helping with how I avoid pairing. If I see a lot of lists that have like the Plague Bearers and stuff, especially in Nova, those lists tend to score high. So I could avoid those by using that tactic and pairings, and kind of scoring in a way where I think I could avoid it.
Right.
And people are probably going to throw hate mail and whatever, but at the end of the day, it's I think a solid tactic for specifically a list like mine that doesn't score high.
Right.
So going to answer your question, mentality wise, I don't think I've ever gone into a tournament hoping to win. I mean, I haven't won a tournament with this list yet, right? So, but it's enough, I think, to win some snack money here and there, right?
Right. Right.
Buddy.
So, changes going through tournaments. What changes in the meta have you seen that's affecting you?
I've been seeing a lot of vehicles pop up, and specifically a lot of fly vehicles, which is awesome for me. So that really gets me going. It's very provocative.
Yeah.
It's what the people want. No, actually,
Yeah, exactly.
I did have a question that dovetails with that. How do you view the custodian hover tank? I know they're kind of cropping up. There's some conversation about if they'll receive points nerf. I know Jeff Robinson had some success on the East Coast. How do you deal with that +2 ballistic that can fly with you, or that kind of?
So, for custodes in general, they're hitting on 4s over 12 inches away. So I think giving them a 50-50 and then having them just reroll 1s is it's always a nice counter for them.
Mhm.
But that tank flies, so it's really helpful for my Crimsons. They just reroll wounds against it. It's like having Doom all the time. And then having Jinx on top of that just really hurts custodes.
Gotcha. So you've not had any effort or any problems with those to speak of, like even the purge dreads or anything like that?
So I don't think I've ever played against some of the Purge Dreads or the Daredeos or any of the new Caladius tanks. I've been, I think, fortunate that no one really runs it here in the Maryland meta.
Mhm.
Shane Watts and like Brandon Phillips are the only really Custodes players that really play Custodes, and even those two haven't run Caladius tanks. And otherwise, as far as the Daredeos and the Leviathans, I haven't really played against those, fortunately.
Consider yourself lucky.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm kidding. I love them. I'm running them too. Rick, you're up.
Yeah. So you talked about sort of your list design ideas in terms of maximizing that sort of minus to hit and avoiding interaction. But from the way you talk about your games, it seems like your style of play is, I know I've only got these 12 or so models on the table here, and I'm just gonna play 40k better than you. like you talk about how it doesn't score super high, so you're meticulously sort of watching and trying to get the right pairings. I always like that style of play, so I'm always interested to hear, like, what do you focus on? What do you think about in going into those matches to make sure that you get that last point so that you win the game?
So I think for Nova specifically for this list, it's really hard to do that, because it's really the scoring works. It's like pretty much all or nothing. Like for example, my game against Josh Kinder, it was super close. I counted up the scores. I'll count up scores in every match at round 3 and round 5. So that way myself and the opponent are on the same page on what needs to happen for a victory to come out, or what happens for a loss. So like round 3, I think I was behind by like 6 points, and then round 5 I was behind by like 4 or something like that. But at that point I was over 20 points, and if I got the last one, I automatically went to 34, regardless if I tabled it. So in Nova, it's really hard to do like score low. Either you score low or you max for this list. But in ITC Champions, it's a lot easier to do that because I could choose not to kill a unit. I could choose not to hold an objective. And it affects the primaries a lot easier for the matchups.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, I don't know if that answered your question. Sorry.
I mean, more or less, yeah.
So what's the one thing that you don't like to see? Does it involve towards Blood Angels charges?
Yeah, Smash Captains really suck because they have that ignore Overwatch ignore Overwatch thing. They could charge 3d6. They have damage 4. They suck. I don't like them.
How about Custodian Bike Captain? Or like
I haven't had too many issues with Custode bikes. I've played Shane Watts a couple times with this list. Currently 2-1 against him with it, and they if I go first, it really does well because of Jinx and Doom, and I'm able to kill a lot of those fly keyword bikes. And it really comes down to if Shane rolls a lot of less than 4s, and he's notorious for spiking under. So it's all right. I like Jinx's dice once in a while, so it's all good.
I've seen
As
him.
you well and should.
Yeah. But otherwise, other units like Smash Captains, anything with fly, Demon Princes are nasty. Yeah.
So what would you let's say GW hit Flyers with the big ass Nerf stick before Nova for some reason. What would you play if you weren't playing 9 Flyers?
I don't know what I'd do with my life, but I'd probably start running the Wind Rider host.
Yeah.
The Seer Council with tons of jet bikes, scatter bikes. I think that'd be really fun. If not that, maybe the Drukari list that's coming up
With the Razor Wings and the Raptors.
The Talos. Yeah.
That is something that I've noticed about. It's always been really consistent in talking to you about lists. Is you do like playing lists that you think are fun. It's like it seems to be a lot less about like I'm going to run this net list because I think I'm going to like people. It's like, well, I really like 9 Flyers, or I really like who the fuck plays Seer Council. There's been one top finish from a Seer Council guy at BAO, and that's it. And otherwise, it's pretty much unheard of. So, definitely props to you for following your heart and your soul, Evan. I respect that.
I mean, you gotta understand that those aren't like crap units either, I guess. So if they're like power units, I guess. You know what I mean?
They're really bad. No, the Seer Council is interesting because it's really like it's like an old school 7th Ed Death Star. Meaning there's so many points invested in one thing. In an addition where it's a lot killier. And I imagine like if you just had like a really bad psychic turn, that shit would just get picked up. So, But I mean, but
Yeah,
it is
sure.
there are obviously like player skill ways to mitigate that.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Absolutely.
No. Well, I don't want to play your list ever. Personally, just I play knights.
You see that's the kick, Connor. Is I don't mind playing my list. It's other people who whether they want to play.
Exactly. Yeah.
Just answer. I mean, I'm Dan. I know that, but just.
So Ivan, why don't you tell the people a little bit about the Exodite project, bro? Because I know you got some hot conversions for those flyers.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. So Connor and I have been working on this project probably since Golden Sprue.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, if you guys don't know, a little personal side of Connor, he's a rap god. So FYI.
I actually know that we freestyled once. Yeah, God help us all.
Damn.
That recording gets out.
He's fucking lying. Dan, you're lying. I was not. We had a amazing freestyle sesh with our boy Josh Medlock in the 5-hour drive to New York. It was very fun. And that was actually where we came the skinks that some of the folks might know about that I've been working on tirelessly for the past few months. My skink guardian
episodes.
That idea happened in the car on the way to Gold Sprue. So that's kind of where we came up with that. But tell the folks about your Exodite shit, bro.
So a lot of my jet bikes have been getting converted from the Idonis Eels. So they'll have the riders, and Seer Council has like the Eldar heads with singing spears. My flyers are actually from the High Elf Phoenix range, so they're all Phoenixes or Frostbirds, and they got the bright lances on top or the heavy D size, and they're all converted on top. I actually got a lot of inspiration not only from the internet, but there's a guy who ran it at the Nova GT last year, and he had several Phoenixes as flyers, and I was like, that's pretty awesome.
And why don't you talk a little shit about Nova? Because Nova's not been very cool about your flyers this year.
Oh, yeah. So I still haven't heard back from them, but they pretty much denied the Phoenix idea. And the issue I guess I have with that is last year at the 2018 auction or charity raffle, they bid off Exodite Army, which had a Wraith Lord, but converted from the Drycha model with just the head swapped out for a Wraith Lord. And they had a Tree Lord Ancient, which was their avatar, which wasn't really converted too much at all either. So it was beautifully painted. But if I offered that as my army, I don't think they would have said no. So I was kind of irked that they wouldn't take a GW model that was converted to have what you see is what you get for a weapon. But ATC is allowing it, so I was happy with that.
That's sick. That's awesome.
Absolutely.
That's very cool. But yeah, that's where the little Exodite came from the Maryland boys, Ivan and Josh. So yeah,
best player in the world. No.
What does anybody else have anything they want to touch on tonight?
So yeah, what tournaments are you coming up for or coming up?
Yeah.
Let's see.
So I think my next one is ATC. I'm going down with some of the other Peace Through DACA guys. So we're bringing 2 teams there. And after that, I'm hosting the Battle for Maryland team tournament at Timonium.
Ooh, is that kind of like a mini ATC?
It is. It's a 3-man team. The faction lists and everything are the same as ATC rules. But as far as the pairing system's a little different though. So we altered the pairing system a little bit.
Oh, very cool.
Interesting.
So actually, I have one more thing I want to throw out. So Ivan, you're a TO. You've organized quite a few events since I've known you, and I imagine before that. Like, why do you think that helping to organize a strong 40K community is important? If I mean, maybe one already exists in your area, or maybe one doesn't. I don't know what it was like in Maryland before you got there, but why do you take being a TO so seriously?
I don't know if I take it seriously. More so that I just enjoy that people get to play and have a place to play and enjoy themselves at tournaments. I know 7th edition and editions before that, it left a lot of bad taste in people's mouths. So as far as a competitive scene, so it was nice to kind of see people coming out of the woodworks for some competitive 40K. And 8th edition's the best one so far to do that. So it's pretty awesome as a TO to see that. And the best thing I think about the TO, just being a TO in any game system, so in Underworlds, Age of Sigmar, and 40K that I've been doing here, it's just interacting with the player base and getting to know them. So I've yet to see a new player that I don't know, and it's just really, it's awesome to see everyone just coming out and playing.
Yeah.
That's like love your
I was gonna say, I did have one more question I forgot to ask. ITC, what secondary pick kind of like the fallback? I imagine recon is easy.
I'm sorry, you kind of cut out. Did you say ITC secondaries?
Yeah, I think you said, what ICTC secondaries do you pick, Ivan?
Oh, okay. Yeah, so Recon's always good. Old school, usually. And depending on, what they got, maybe Mark for Death or Big Game. Or Rank and Call the Hordes, depending what type of list.
Do you ever find yourself taking the line?
What was that?
Alliance, I think, was the one.
Oh, I've actually never taken that. I think it's because mainly if I try to score that early on, I was always scared that I might get either boxed out or be too close with my planes that they die. So I actually haven't thought about that one too much.
Nice.
Yeah. I gotta respect someone that takes old school.
I mean, Ivan's a pretty old guy, so he's been around.
Shut up, Connor. Get out of here. Whatever, dude.
I mean, that's how we used to play 40K. You just had to do those things anyway. But
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
So I got a question for you. As a TO, you might have. So one of my big, being the worst player here, one of my big things is how do you get ready and handle a tournament? And one of the things that I always talk about, how do you see people dealing with kind of the stress and the time it takes to do a tournament? Either like not getting tilted, stuff like that.
Are you saying from a TO or as a player in the tournament?
Either way. I mean, so new player come to their first. So I'm a new player going to my first day-long event, or maybe 2-day-long event. What would you recommend that I expect, or that I do ahead of time, or anything like that?
I guess recommendations is kind of just know your rules, know your army, and just kind of give the mindset that hey, it's just a long day, right? So I think most people go into it not expecting to stand up for that long, and not maybe get, I guess, nervous during tournaments.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of the best ways I've come up with is this kind of kind of shitty, but if I know the person they're playing, like if I know the new guy, or I know the person the new guy's playing, I'll kind of try to break the ice a little bit during their matches. I'll kind of hover around their matches and kind of make fun of the guy I do know, so that way it kind of eases them up a little bit. I mean, it sounds kind of douchey, but like for example, like Scott Horace, right? If there's like a new guy who's playing Scott Horace is known to be a really good player. Him, Shane Watts, any of those guys, and they're new. I'll bash and I'll josh them. And I'll make fun of Scott and Shane in front of the other guy, just so it kind of makes them feel at ease. So it shows that hey, those guys are human too. And I think really just trying to make them feel at ease that hey, it's just a long day, and it's at the end of the day, it's just a game. So. Also, one of the things we started doing at Bel Air to kind of show a little more friendly side, I guess, is we started doing bounties, and daily bounties are a thing there by me calling out a specific person or a specific army. Like, hey, if you kill 80 orcs or something, you'll get a free snack or a drink from the store.
That's smart.
That's pretty cool.
And I'll put bounties on some of the top players. I'll be like, hey, you guys table this guy, or hey, you guys do something, right? And then you'll get something. for it. So that way, I think mentally a lot of people start loosening up.
I think that's a really good idea. Actually, I'd never thought about doing something like that, but
That is,
that's a really
So-
cool idea.
I would like to point out that the first time I went up to Maryland, I played Shane Watts round 2, and Ivan did none of this joking. Okay. I was
True
just
story.
Because
Yeah.
he didn't like you, Connor.
and I got beat
Yeah.
up. Ivan was more to make me feel better. So I'm not saying I'm a liar. I'm just saying I didn't experience that. And I feel kind of bad now. So
Hey, you got a free Airbnb, dude. I don't think you should talk.
Ooh.
This is true.
Ooh.
This is true.
Call down.
If you hear "fuck it," Shane, do you know shit's about to go down?
Oh yeah.
Because that's our favorite catchphrase. Shane introduced that to us last week.
What?
Fuck it.
Oh, fuck it. Yeah, the old fuck it.
Yes, that is our new catchphrase.
Awesome.
Which
Yeah, when we asked Shane if he has like a decision to make in a game and he's not sure what he wants to do, he was like, how do you like work through tough decisions in games? He's like, sometimes I just say fuck it and I do it. And it works out, it doesn't work out.
as an orc player, I totally understand that mentality. When in doubt, move forward and hit things with sticks.
Pretty much.
This is true.
I just like yelling "fuck it" because, and I'm Dan. Like those are my favorite.
Yeah.
I'm Dan. And I charged 12 inches and beat them.
Mm-hmm.
It's true.
Ivan, do you have any thoughts you want to get out before we start to wrap up here?
No, I really I appreciate you guys giving me the chance to kind of talk and rant a little bit and
Absolutely.
ramble.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I think for anyone who's really coming into this game, whether you look at it as a sport or a hobby, I think 8th edition has definitely been one of the most enjoyable and welcoming. Like you would never see this many GTs or majors in any of the other editions. So really, ITC Frontline Gaming has really promoted it really well. And I think, wait, don't you guys have a tournament yeah, Richmond has a tournament coming up, right, in July?
Yes, we'll plug that. There's a July 20th. I think there are tickets remaining for sure. It's called Battle in the Warp. I'll put it on our Facebook page closer to the event. It's going to be a major. It's going to be there's 64 slots. It's put on by our friends at Warp Charged Gaming, who are a YouTube channel, and they do 40K. They do Kill Team. They do Sigmar. It's run by a really good, great guy, friend of mine named George Rollins, and business partner James Schaff, and they're really trying to make that pop off. So come on down to that one. It's again July 20th that weekend. It's going to be a 2-day event, and I do believe I'm 90% sure that there was previously going to be a cutoff for day 1 into day 2, so only top 16 would make day 2. But now I'm pretty certain that it's a full 2-day. So if you come out, you're going to be playing for 2 days, which is awesome. So yeah, please come check that out. Richmond's a great city to come hang out in. There's a really good nightlife, a lot of fun stuff to do.
Check out Carytown.
Yeah, check out Carytown. Check out wherever we can hang out. If you want to come meet, hang out with the Warp Charge guys, hang out with me. Definitely down to do that. So yeah, thanks for mentioning that, Ivan. We got that coming up July 20th, Battle in the Warp, hosted by Warp Charge Gaming.
Nice. And I think last we heard it was 10 tickets left or so on the.
So it's like that. It filled up pretty damn quick, which like Ivan said, it's like a really strong statement about how popular 8th edition is.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet. Like at the Battleground store, George put on some RTTs, and we had 40 people show up to 2 separate RTTs,
Nice.
which is like fucking insane.
I got second place. I'm just going to plug myself there.
Yeah, Dan got second place. Dan's great. Dan is nice.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Come up to Huzzah and play.
Yeah. Come on. Come up to Maryland, bro.
I got second place at Huzzah. Pete, where are you at?
Uh-huh.
What?
But
Thank you for coming on, bud.
Yeah, we got that going on.
any other shout outs we got to do? Ivan, you got the floor. Any shout outs? Anybody you want to say hi to all out on the interwebs?
Well, I mean, just really thank you to you guys. Thanks to really the Bel Air store and the whole 40K community in Maryland's been really awesome. PC DACA guys are always dicks, so hate them. But
Yeah.
yeah, everyone else is awesome, and I appreciate you guys bringing me on here.
Great.
And I'll plug the new team Ivan and I are starting at some point in the future. Team J Wick. We both love.
Yo, that's a great team.
Yeah,
I love that John Wick guy.
One of our boys, Brian, is going to be on the team, so look out for that. Look out for some dudes wearing Keanu Reeves jerseys at LVO.
Nice.
We're gonna see about that. So just shout out Team J Wick.
So top 5 or bust, right?
Top 1
Exactly.
Top 3. I mean, it's gonna be 1, 2, 3 down the list. That's just how it's gonna be.
And obviously, we're all gonna tie for first place too, because we're all
absolutely. You're just gonna go to the top table and you'll be like, I can't play this game. Sorry, it's just tie.
Cool. Well, so I guess that anybody else got anything they want to mention? Cool. We'll be back. We'll be back next week.
Same bat time, same bat channel. Thursdays at 9:00 Eastern. Thank you very much, everybody, for calling in. Please join us next week. Follow our social media. Follow us on Discord. Follow us on Facebook. And this is Pete the Headbanger signing out. Let me go around the room.
This is Con.
Dan.
Yeah.
You guys have a good night.
Everybody have a good night and take it easy.